Welcome all on the internet. Welcome to FORMAAT. This is our second live webcast. My name is Luc Opdebeeck. I'm the artistic director of FORMAAT, Workspace for Participatory Drama. We're based in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. And this week, I don't know if you noticed, but it's International Peace Week. And FORMAAT is the Peace Embassy of Rotterdam. And we are hosting this week the Combatants for Peace, a binational organization from Palestine and Israel. And they're working on peace and reconciliation and non-violent struggle against the occupation in Palestine. Within the movement, they have a theater group and they work with the theater of the oppressed. And last time we saw a panel with people talking all night, and this night we want to offer you some theater, and after the theater we will have a discussion with you on the internet. So we hope you are watching, we hope you are staying with us. In your screen there is a chat box and you can ask questions during the performance and after the performance to the members of Combatants for Peace. I've been talking enough. Let's see a beautiful play of theater, putting down barriers with Combatants for Peace.
Good evening. My name is Chen Alon, and I'm very excited to be here with you. I know that you're watching us at home. I hope you're watching us at home. I just wanted to say a few words before we start. Indeed, this is a group of Israelis and Palestinian activists in the old sense of the word. We are actors and activists. Although we are all non-actors, we are not professional actors. We are activists, and we consider ourselves as actors because of that, because we are taking an action in the reality. We want to change it. We want to reconcile and have a dialogue between us, and moreover, we want to struggle against the occupation non-violently and bring justice and freedom together.
My grandfather escaped the Holocaust. The rest of his family died.
جدي هرب من الكارثة وبكى عيلته توفوا.
عائلتي هجرت عام 48 بسبب الاحتلال.
My family was displaced in 1948 because of the occupation.
I wanted to save my people, so I became a major in the Israeli army.
كان بدي أحمي شعبي، عشان هيك أنا صرت ضابط بالسلاح الإسرائيلي.
جدي قتل وأهلي هجروا من أراضي 48 بسبب الاحتلال.
My grandfather was killed and his family was displaced from their land because of the occupation.
سجنت 2.5 سنين بدون أي تهمة. أعيش منفصل عن زوجتي وأطفالي بسبب الجدار الفصلي العنصري.
I live separated from my wife and kids because of the apartheid wall.
I grew up in a leftist family, but knew nothing about the occupation.
أنا تربيت بعيلة يسارية بس ما كنتش أعرف ولا أي شيء عن الاحتلال.
اعتقلت وأصبت من قبل قوات الاحتلال.
I was arrested and injured from the Israeli army.
لم أكمل دراستي بسبب الاحتلال.
I didn't continue my studies because of the occupation.
My boyfriend went to fight in the Second Lebanon War, and I couldn't say anything. Now I say no.
حبيبي راح يحارب بالجيش بالحرب اللبناني الثانية، وقتها ما كنتش أقدر أحكي ولا إشي. اليوم أنا بحكي لا.
أنبذ العنف وأؤمن بالمقاومة السلمية.
I condemn violence and support non-violent resistance. I realized that I live in Israel in the age of 16. بجيل 16 فهمت إنه أنا ساكنة بإسرائيل.
سجنت 2.5 سنين بدون تهمة وأي محاكمة.
I was arrested for 2 years and a half without any trial or accusation.
على دلعونة وعلى دلعونة زيتون بلادي أجمل ما يكون. على دلعونة وعلى دلعونة زيتون بلادي أجمل ما يكون. على دلعونة وعلى دلعونة زيتون بلادي أجمل ما يكون. على دلعونة وعلى دلعونة زيتون بلادي أجمل ما يكون. دلعونا وعلى دلعونا
بلادي أجمل ما يكون
على دلعونا على دلعونا زيتونة أجمل ما يكون.
يا قلبي بايهر.
I don't know what to do. شو عمل؟
هذه أرضي. This is my land.
يا الله ماي جاد. مقاومة resistance.
الو لاير محامي.
إبراهيم.
نهاد.
What are you doing here?
أنا مع أصحابي.
I'm demonstrating here with my friends.
شفتم أنا هون.
You're crazy. They're your enemies. They're not your friends.
We're not.
We're his friends. We're his friends.
We're demonstrating
Join us.
هذول يهود.
ما تكفيك.
Family, come over here.
What do you want? More violence? What do you want? Occupation no more. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Occupation no more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more. 1, 2, 3, 4. Occupation no more.
ואתם אחראים על התושבים פה ואתם מפציצים אותם ברימוני גז בהלם וסוגרים להם דרך מצ'ופקת של 2 מטר. זו לא הדרך, המפקד המח"ט, זו לא הדרך. אתה לא תישן בשקט בלילה. עדר, סתם אנשים לא מתנגדים. סתם אנשים לא מתנגדים. המפקד המח"ט, אתה יודע את זה. אם אנשים שמים את הגוף, המפקד המח"ט, שים לב. תסרבו. שימו את הראש ותעצרו. אתם רוצים את זה בערוץ 2? תמשיכו לדחוף את האבנים פה. תראו מה אתם עושים, יש שם אנשים. הפנים שלכם יהיו בערוץ. אתם בוחרים אם משהו קורה פה. אין שום צורך מהקרב.
Wow. Thank you so much for this performance. Some people were watching on the internet, so I hope for the people on the internet just raise questions during this conversation. I want to introduce you to the members of Combatants for Peace one by one.
هو عمليا بده يشكركم على العرض اللي انتم قدمتوه. في كثير من الاشخاص اللي هن موجودين ببيوتهم عن طريق الانترنت اللي هن عم بيشوفونا، وكمان رح يبعتوا عن طريق هذا البرنامج، رح هن يبعتوا اسئله اللي يسالونا اياها.
Just the names first. Rima, who is translating this evening from my English to Arab. And next to Rima is Liat, Abdel Hakim, Genalon, Noor, Mohamed, Asaf, and Ibrahim. And we've been already a few days this week during the Peace Week doing activities all over the Netherlands.
خلال هذا الاسبوع احنا عمليا كنا نعمل كثير فعاليات بمناطق مختلفه من النذرلاندز.
And in order to get you going on the internet, because I don't want to ask all the questions this evening, I'm going to ask one question to each member, if that's okay with you. And I would like to start with Asaf. Asaf.
هو عمليا رح يسأل كل واحد منا سؤال واحد ورح يبدأ مع أساف.
Can you explain us what is CFP, Combatants for Peace, and what do you do?
إذا ممكن تشرح لنا شو مقاتلين لأجل السلام وشو أنتم بتعملوا؟
Combatants for Peace is an organization, a movement of people, Israelis and Palestinians, together working for several years now against occupation, against Israeli occupation, and we do it binationally all the time. That means we think and plan and protest and demonstrate and do theater all together, only together. And always in non-violent ways, because we believe that violence is a way that is no more relevant, if ever, to resolving the situation and bringing justice to our lands. And we use this theater as a part, as you said before, as a part of a Combatants for Peace activity. We use this theater as a means of trying to help people feel and experience the reality differently in order to go through transformation, like the transformation all of us went through by joining this movement. And another part, a very important part in the vision, I think, is trying to push the public and governments towards resolution.
Thank you for that. I want to ask Noor. Noor, what is your main goal and inside of Combatants for Peace, and how do you try to achieve that?
شو هو هدفكم الرئيسي بداخل منظمة مقاتلين لأجل السلام وكيف أنتم بدكم توصلوا لهذا الشيء؟
The main goal in Combatants for Peace at first is to end the occupation by non-violent struggle by nationality, Palestinian and Israeli together. We want to achieve this goal. It's not easy. It will be very difficult, but we will do a lot of activity in Palestine against the occupation, like demonstration against the settlement and against the checkpoint. We help the Palestinian farmers to pick the olives. In this month, we decided to go to help some Palestinian farmers. He don't reach the land to pick the olives, and the Israeli came with Palestinian and help this the Palestinian farmers, and we help the Palestinian to plant some trees in some Palestinian land near the settlement. I think it's not enough to end the occupation, but Combatant for Peace, it opened the mind of the Palestinian and the Israeli people to ask themselves about this situation, about the conflict, and how we can cut the circle of the blood, the circle of the violence in Palestine, between Palestinian and Israel. And Combatant for Peace, it's I think they can go away to do something, to do more activity, and the theater group, this group is more important, I think, in the organization, because through the theater we can put a lot of questions inside the mind of the people in Israel or in Palestine, and we open the mind of the people about the reality in Palestine, and to help the Palestinian people, to help the Israeli people inside Israel, because it's not easy for the Israelian to work with the Palestinian people. It was combatant, it was joined in the circle of the violence. It's not easy like it Palestinian. And the other goal, the main challenge for me, it's to convince the Palestinian people this work is not normalization exactly. This work is resistance against the occupation. This work to build a lot trust between Palestinian and Israeli, because it's very important to build a trust. If you want to go to the solution, you need a trust between the two people. Thank you.
So my next question is for Rima. Okay, you want to translate? Okay, go.
يعني بالمختصر حكيت انه الهدف الكبير لنا للمقاتلين لاجل السلام هو انهاء الاحتلال الاسرائيلي لفلسطين، والعمل مع بعض كفلسطينيين واسرائيليين على هذا الموضوع من خلال عده انشطه بنكون فيها، سواء مظاهرات ضد المستوطنات او الحواجز، سواء مساعده المزارعين اللي بتمكنوش من الوصول لاراضيهم، وزرع الاشجار في اراضي قريبه من المستوطنات بتكون فارغه. وكمان حكيت عن انه اهميه هذا العمل في بناء الثقة ما بين الفلسطينيين والإسرائيليين، نحن لأنه إحنا إذا بدنا نروح للحل لازم نعمل على بناء ثقة متبادلة ما بين الشعبين، وهذه مسألة مهمة جدا في حل النزاع. وكمان حكيت عن أهمية عملنا هذا ودورنا في إبرازنا كناس مناضلين مقاتلين من خلال النضال اللاعنفي ضد الاحتلال، وليس عبارة عن مجموعات تطبيع. بالعكس نحن ناس بنناضل وبنقاتل زينا زي غيرنا. وكمان تحدثت عن أهمية المسرح، مجموعة المسرح اللي من خلالها ممكن نفتح آفاق وأذهان الناس سواء بفلسطين أو في إسرائيل حول الواقع والحقيقة اللي احنا بنعيشها، وبالتالي كسب أكبر عدد من المؤيدين للمنظمة.
Rima, welcome. Joabra, do I say that good? Yeah.
But I just didn't translate what Asaf said to Arabic because it was general.
Yeah.
But I told my colleagues that he's talking about the organization, so I won't translate it to Arabic. Yeah.
Okay. People can find you on the internet as well. www.cfp, I think, .org. Is that right? Anyway, they will find the address under the subtitles of at the end of the program. Rima, in a conflict as big as this, and a movement who is moving against all political streams, what are the biggest challenges at the moment for the organization?
Concentrating in the question and I forgot that I need to translate. Could you say it?
Excuse What are the biggest challenges for the work at the moment? I mean, it's a movement who goes against the public opinion probably on both sides, and what are the biggest challenges at the moment?
هون لوك عم بيسألني عمليا شو يعني انتم موجودين بمطرح اللي هو مثل عم بغلى وهو مطرح اللي هو كثير صعب للشغل. شو أكثر الأهداف اللي هي رئيسية لإلكو اليوم، صحيح لليوم؟ أنا بفكر إنه كثير صعب إنه إحنا نحكي هدف واحد، إيش هو الهدف الوحيد تبعنا إسا لليوم، لأنه كل الوقت في أهداف. بس اسمحوا لي طبعا أنا أحكي باسم المجموعة إنه الهدف الرئيسي إلنا اليوم هو تجنيد أكبر عدد ممكن من الأشخاص للعمل معنا، لأنه بعد 6 سنين أنا بفكر شخصيا إنه لازم إحنا كنا بعدد اللي هو بكثير أكبر، ونوصل رسالتنا رسالة المقاومة اللاعنفية لعدد اللي هو بكثير أكبر من الجانبين، كمان الإسرائيلي وكمان الفلسطيني. We have a lot of goals and it's changing all the time, and our goal today, it will be added to another goals that we had yesterday. So all the time we have more and more goals, but I will give the goal that I see it the most important from my own perspective as member of Combatants for Peace, that it will be to deliver our message to more and more people in both sides. The message of the vision of Combatants for Peace, and not only, it's the vision of non-violent struggle that both sides, they need to take it as an action in order to say, that's it, enough with killing, and let's have a new way of resistance and ending the occupation.
And what are the challenges in that? What is making your work difficult, or the challenges?
هون شو التحديات اللي موجودة عنا؟ I think بفكر إنه بعد 6 سنين إنه إحنا عن جد بعدنا مش واصلين، معناها في أشخاص اللي هن معنيين إنه رسالتنا ما توصلش لأسباب شخصية أو أسباب دولية، بعرفش بالضبط كيف. It's really hard question because after 6-7 years in Combatants for Peace, and now I look and I say why we couldn't break inside walls of us between our families and friends and like the small community that we live in. And I cannot tell if it's protection, self-protection, it's national protection, it's that they don't want to listen to us because they're good where they are, because people, until they came to us and they told us, like until a friend came to me and he told me, you have this way, come and try it. I didn't know that it existed. So I thought that I have my right way and I'm doing my right resistance until I know that I must work with the Israeli-Palestinian or a group in order to end the occupation. But until that time, I didn't know. So it's more the challenge, it's inside of every one of us and inside of the society and inside the individuals in the society. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. My next question is for Ibrahim Hamida. Ibrahim, you're sitting next to me. My question is, you're a member of CFP. That means like everyone who is sitting here in the circle, in this half circle, that you were part of the circle of violence. How did you transform to a peacemaker in theater?
هون هو عمليا السؤال، انت مثل اي شخص اخر اللي هو قاعد بهاي نص الدائرة، كيف انت عمليا انت كنت دائرة العنف، وكيف انت وصلت لهذا المطرح، شو التغيير اللي صار عندك لحتى انت وصلت حتى تحارب بطريقة سلمية وعن طريق المسرح؟
احنا كل انسان في مرحلة في حياته بتكون فيها تغيير وتحويل. فانا بعد قضاء سنوات طويلة في السجن من عمري، قعدت مع ذاتي وفكرت كثير انه احنا بدنا اسلوب غير هذا الاسلوب اللي يكون فيه ما تكون فيه الخسارة كبيرة.
After I'm like everyone else in this life who's making a process of changing and awareness. I got this after during my time in the jails. It was long time in the Israeli occupier jails, and over there I got this process. The process started there.
فلقيت إنه المقاومة اللاعنفية هي من يعني أفضل وسائل المقاومة وأنجحها لوقف آلة القتل والدمار الإسرائيلية وحتى ما نكبد شعبنا يعني خسارة أكبر من اللي خسرها.
And I just realized during this period that non-violent resistance, it will be the key to end the occupation and to stop the killers from our side as Palestinian nation. We need to stop the blood that our nation gives.
فبعد هيك انضممت لمنظمة مقاتلون وشفت إنه الشغل معهم أثبت نجاحه على الأرض.
And I joined Combatants for Peace because I saw how they were really effective and they made changes on the ground in reality.
شكرا.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ibrahim. Liat, my question for you is, how has your background, I know you were born, I think, in Latin America? Raised in Latin America. How did you were very young when you came to Israel. How did your childhood influence you by living in a country with such a violent conflict?
هون بس هو عم بيسألها أنت عمليا تربيتي بأمريكا اللاتينية وبعدين أنت نقلتي تسكني بإسرائيل، كيف هذا الشيء أثر على يعني كيف أنت وصلتي لهون اليوم؟
I was born in Israel, and when I was 1 month, we moved to Brazil. I was there until the age of 5. I think that what influenced me was more maybe the background of my parents. They were born and raised in Argentina and Chile. And I think that the fact that they were raised in a country with dictatorship made them very politically aware. And one of the stories that I grew up on was that when I was a child in Brazil, when I was asking, we saw somebody really poor on the street, and I was asking my mother, why is he on the street? And at that moment she knew that she couldn't live in Brazil because she can't influence the situation in there. And she wanted to go to Israel, in a place that she can influence. And maybe in some kind of way I was raised in this mission also, to change the place I live in, not to let the looks go by and to do something. And I think that this is the way that I felt that I was influenced, also to join this movement and to do the action, if it's acting and if it's demonstrating, and to do everything that we do together.
هوني بتحكي إنه أنا اتربيت، أنا انولدت بإسرائيل وبعدين رحت أسكن بالبرازيل لحد جيل 5 سنين. الأمر أثر علي كثير إنه هو خلفية أهلي، الخلفية تبعت أهلي أبوي من تشيلي وأمي من أرجنتينا، وهن تربوا بالحكم الدكتاتوري لما كانت دكتاتورية بهاي المناطق. وأنا شفت كثير مرات وأنا كطفلة شفت في ناس فقيرة اللي هي ماشية بالشارع، وكثير مرات سألت أمي مين هدول الناس الفقراء اللي ماشيين بالشارع، وهي دائما قالت لي تتدخليش وتسأليش، يعني دائما قالت لي بعنكيش فيهن مين هدول الناس. وبعدين أمي بنفسها فهمت وصار عندها التحول إنه هي بدهاش تعيش بمحل اللي هي لازم تغض البصر عن كثير أشخاص اللي هن مضطهدين، وبدهاش إنه بنتها تشوف هاي الأشياء. وكمان لما نقلنا على إسرائيل، وإحدى الأمور اللي أنا صار عندي تغير فيها إنه أنا بديش أرجع لهذا المحل تبع جيل ال5 سنين اللي فيه أنا لازم أغض بصري عن مشاكل الناس واضطهاد المجتمعات الصغيرة.
Thank you. I just get sometimes they bring these green cards, and that means that there is reflections from the internet, which is nice to know because we are in an empty almost empty studio. But it's nice to know that people are following us and some
هون لوك
reactions.
بس حكى إنه الورقة الخضراء كل ما تيجي ورقة خضراء هي عمليا سؤال من الإنترنت اللي الناس كتبوه.
So some reactions. Here is one from Uri Mair, I think, and wonderful to see the play live. It was wonderful played. Thank you for that. Another.
تعليق من أوري نوي مئير اللي هو عم بحكي إنه ممتاز إنه إحنا عم نقدر نشوف المسرحية مباشرة.
It must be weird to play a theater play in front of cameras and not of an audience. But
أكيد كثير كان غريب إنه أنتوا تمثلوا من دون جمهور وقدام كاميرات.
Erella from Amsterdam, you guys are amazing. We miss you in Amsterdam. A wonderful performance in the Bali.
أريلا اللي نظمت عمليا الأمسية في أمستردام عم تحكي لنا أنتوا أشخاص بتجننوا وإحنا كثير اشتقنا لكم بأمستردام وكمان بمسرح دي بالي.
Okay, my next question is for Mohammed, the protagonist in the play. My question, I know we've been going a few days. You've been raised in a refugee camp. For me as a European, and I guess also many people on the internet, we don't have an idea about the situation. But how was it to grow up in because you're very young, you probably missed a part of the history was already started. The conflict already started when you were born, I think. How was it to grow up in such circumstances, and what is the story behind that? Could you emphasize a little bit on that?
هون هو عم بحكي لك عمليا أنا إحنا تعرفنا عليك هاي الفترة وأنا فاهم إنك أنت عمليا جيت من مخيم للاجئين وتربيت فيه، بس بما إنه كثير عالم اللي هي أكيد بتسمعنا وعالم موجودة بأوروبا اللي هي بتعرفش إشي عن الوضع ولا بتعرف إشي عن حياة الفلسطينيين في المخيمات اللاجئين. فإذا أنت ممكن بس تحكي لنا كيف أنت كطفل اللي عمليا لصغر، يعني أنت اليوم لصغر سنك أنت انولدت بعد ما الصراع الإسرائيلي الفلسطيني كان قائم وحامي، فأنت كيف أنت كطفل كمراهق اللي تربى بالمخيم، إذا ممكن أنت تحكي لنا أمور اللي نقدر نفهمها.
بداية عائلتي هجروا من عام 48 من بلدهم، واليوم نسكن في مخيم للاجئين. انولدت أنا في مخيم، حياة صعبة.
Like everyone else living in refugee camps, my family was displaced from their homeland, from their lands in 1948, and they moved to live in Mokhayam Tulkarm, which is next to Tulkarm city, and it was a really hard childhood that I was raised into.
فتحت عيوني على إني أشوف جيش الاحتلال واقتحامات للمخيم، اعتقالات، قتل، هدم بيوت.
As a kid, I saw all the time the Israeli soldiers with their uniforms. I heard bombs. I saw soldiers invading the refugee camp, entering to Palestinian houses.
حتى وصلتني أنا شخصياً أصبت بحروق من قبل الجيش، وتم علاجي في الأردن لمدة 50 يوم.
Until the age of 5, and it was really early that I was playing and I got burned from one of the bombs that the soldiers throw in our neighborhood.
كان عمري 5 سنوات.
In the age of 5.
بعد ما روحنا من الأردن طبعا تصوبت أمي بالرصاص في بطنها واعتقلوا أخوي الكبير.
It was in the age of 5, so I needed to go to the hospital in Jordan for 50 days to get a cure. When I came back, my mother got shot in her stomach from a bullet of the Israeli army.
حتى بداية انتفاضة الأقصى عام 2000
until the second intifada, which it was the year 2000.
تصوبت مرتين من الرصاص الاحتلال.
قد كان عمرك؟
15 16.
In the year of 2000, the second intifada, I was 16 years old. I was a teenager and I got shot 2 times from the Israeli army.
في لي أخ شهيد وأخ أسير وبعدها أنا انسجنت بدون أي تهمة.
I have in my family I was raised that I have a brother who's shaheed, that he was killed by the occupation army, and I have another brother who's in the jails until this day, in the Israeli jails.
وأختي سجنت وجوزها قتل شهيد.
And also my sister, she was in the jail for a really long time, and her brother also a shaheed. Her husband.
A martyr, the husband of sister for Muhammad is a martyr.
You know what is martyr? Okay.
قضيت 2.5 سنين بظروف اعتقال صعبة داخل السجون.
I was arrested for 2 years and a half also as a teenager, and I spent there 2 years and a half of my life.
بعد ما خرجت من السجن تعرفت على واحدة من عربة 48 وتزوجتها وخلفت منها أطفال، وحاليا هي بتسكن في 48 وأنا في الضفة الغربية في مخيم. بفصلنا الجدار، يعني أنا مرفوض إني أروح عندها.
When I was freed from the actual jails of the Israeli inside of Israel, I met a lady, and she's Palestinian who lives in Israel, Palestinians of 48, and we loved each other and we got married and now we have kids, but we cannot live together. She lives in Israel and I live in Palestine.
رغم هذا كله أؤمن في المقاومة السلمية وإنهاء الاحتلال.
And with all these stories I'm telling you, I still believe in the non-violent struggle and to end the occupation.
شكرا.
Thank you.
Abdul Hakim, welcome also. I can imagine that there are different challenges on Israeli side as on Palestinian side. What are specific the challenges of the Palestinian members of Combatants for Peace? What are the challenges?
هنا عم بقول عمليا في تحديات مختلفة للجانب الإسرائيلي من الجانب الفلسطيني. شو هي عمليا تحدياتك اللي موجودة كمشارك من الجانب الفلسطيني، الأخص يعني على الفلسطيني؟
الحقيقة في عنا تحديات كثيرة، وأهمها اللي هو انعدام الثقة بين الشعبين الإسرائيلي والفلسطيني، وكيف إحنا بدنا نبني هاي الثقة على أساس نقدر نضم للمقاتلين أكبر عدد ممكن.
We have many challenges, and one challenge it's the issue of it's part of the issue of the untrust between the Israeli and the Palestinians, and this is why it's really hard to gather more and more Palestinians from the Palestinian street to join us.
والتحدي الثاني أنه إحنا نتعرض الطرفين الإسرائيلي والفلسطيني نتعرض لهجوم من قبل بعض المواطنين الفلسطينيين والإسرائيليين بيتهمونا بالتطبيع، أو أنه إحنا بنحرف الناس عن مسار المقاومة والإسرائيليين برضو بنفس الشيء بيواجهوا هذا الشيء.
And the second thing that we cannot gather people to join us and still they don't leave us alone. It means that they stop us and they call us that we are normalizing the occupation. We're doing a normalization and a dangerous process that it's like the oil for the occupation inside of Palestine. It generates more and more power for the occupation and for Israel inside of Palestine.
وكمان في عنا قلة التمويل واللغة وصعوبة اللغة طبعا بين الطرفين. وكمان في عنا اللي هو عدم حرية الحركة، وهذا الاشي بمنعنا من التواصل واللقاءات بين الطرفين، لأنه احنا ما بنقدر نروح على أراضي المحتلة عام 48 وهم بس بكون صعب عليهم أنهم يجوا على المناطق الفلسطينية.
And another two challenges that the language, that we don't have one language to communicate with, and we don't have a place to meet. And we don't have a place because we don't have the right of movements and the right to be free to move anywhere you want. And we live in the lands of 67 and they live in Israel, and it's really hard to find places where we could both drive to and go there to meet.
Thank you.
Shukran.
I'll take this one back. And as last, Chen Alon. I must say Dr. Chen Alon, I think now. Huh? No, I'm just joking, Chen. You were a major in the Israeli army, and you were an actor and a theater maker, and especially you worked with the theater of the oppressed, and you developed a method, the polarized theater of the oppressed. Some thing to add at the work Augusto Boal has been doing in the theater. Could you explain a little bit maybe you want to tell something about yourself first and then explain us something about the theater work you are doing at the moment?
هنا هو عم بطلب منه انه هو عمليا يشرح عن المسرح القطبي اللي هو يطوره بالنسبه لأوغوستو بوال، وهذا السؤال اذا انتم بدكم اترجم ولا لا. I won't translate it, so you could say it one time because we just had your lecture. You just heard it
many
today.
times.
Yeah, not many times.
Because you don't need this introduction to to what we're doing because we've developed it together. It's not only me who developed this. Most of the work has been developed in this group in this group's journey, which is, as I said. In the opening of the play, we have many needs, many different needs than other needs that the theater of the oppressed aimed when it was just invented or discovered by Augusto Boal. One of the first things that he said that the theater of the oppressed is an answer to a need or answer to needs. So when I transformed from a theater practitioner, a professional, and to a TO practitioner, it was at the same time when I transformed from being an officer in the Israeli army to someone who refused to commit the crimes he refused just a few years later as a major in the Israeli army. And that transformation, I won't get into it, but it's a very deep transformation that I went through in my personal life, in my national life as an Israeli. and as an artist who was a theater practitioner and turned into an activist in the pure sense of the word. I was an actor, and I'm still an actor in the activist deepest sense of the word. So when I found out that what I want to do is to combine or merge art in activism and activism in art, what we called in our field artivism, I realized that the techniques and the methods of Augusto Boal are great and amazing, as we all know that, but some of them are not accurately applicable to our needs as Israelis or Palestinians who have together the needs in Combatants for Peace on one lane to reconcile with each other, to reconcile each one of us with his own or her own past as violent human beings, and to heal our wounds that we need to do it together. And in the other lane, we have to strategize and our non-violent struggle, and we use theater for both needs. And we found out that through theater, that as has been mentioned here, that we have a barrier of language, and theater is a bridge it bridged the gap of language, because theater is a form of knowledge, and theater is a language that we use to understand each other and to activate each other and to create new alliances that are invisible in our concrete conflict and concrete reality. So we use all that. We use theater just as a weapon against the occupation, against the violence, against the dehumanization that made us to do what we did as combatants on both sides. I mean, both sides were willing to commit actions which can be done only when you dehumanize someone else. So that's the answer of why we are a non-violent organization. But the main, I mean, the long-term vision is just to provide hope to the Israelis and the Palestinians, because that's the main obstacle. People lost their hope, and that's the main reason that people are not willing to take an action. They remain passive on both sides, or the default of remaining passive would be to be violent. And theater allows people to see and to witness, to observe how you can take an action in a non-violent way and still be able to change the reality.
I have some questions coming in. Maybe somebody can answer this question. It's coming from Karen. I didn't quite understand the film we were seeing on the screen. It was vague. It was not clear, but seems to be very interesting. What did we see?
في هنا سؤال من الانترنت من واحد من المشاهدين انه عم بيسأل انا ما فهمتش بالضبط ايش الفيلم اللي انعرض على الشاشة البيضاء. كان كثير هيك معتم يعني مغبش، فاذا ممكن تشرحوا لنا شو احنا اللي شفناه بالفيلم.
Who can I give the word? Who wants
مين بده يجاوب على السؤال؟
هذه الفيلم اللي انعرض على الشاشة كان إحدى فعاليات منظمة مقاتلون لأجل السلام.
This movie it was part of many movies of our activities in Combatants for Peace.
واللي بتقع في مدينة طول كرم في قرية اسمها شوفة.
In this video you see the area of Palestinian village named Shoufe.
وعلى مدار سنوات وإحنا بنحاول نفتح الطريق هاي حتى تتواصل القرية هذه مع المدينة.
And during many years we were trying to open a roadblock that forbade the citizens of this village from free movement.
ونجحنا في هذا المشوار.
And we succeed.
وبحب أضيف للأخت اللي سألت إنه كمان إحنا من 4 سنوات تقريبا قدرنا نوصل الكهرباء للقرية هذه بعد جهد جهيد.
And it's not only to open the roadblocks around the village. I add also that we connected through our activities, we managed to connect the village with electricity that they didn't have until 4 years ago. They didn't have electricity.
شكرا.
Thank you. Thank you, Ibrahim. In the name of Karen, who was posing the question.
شكرا لك.
Yes, sure.
أسف بس بده يزيد كم شغلة.
What was amazing that day is that we were there by chance. We were meeting our regular binational meeting under the olive tree, which is not an expression. This is where we sit together.
هنا هو عم بزيد إنه إحنا عملياً بهذا اليوم إحنا كنا هناك. الإشي المهم اللي بدي أضيفه إبراهيم إنه كنا هناك بالصدفة، وبالصدفة إحنا كنا ملتقيين تحت شجرة الزيتون، وهذا مش تعبير، هذا عن جد إحنا بنلتقي تحت شجرة الزيتون.
And the minute Chen used the roadblock as a metaphor to talk about inner tensions we have in our organization, the shufel, how do you say in English? Bulldozer. The bulldozer just came to the crossroad as we were sitting there, and we were quite amazed. It doesn't happen every day. I mean, it's been open for months. And so we stood up and went there, and you saw the situation after half an hour, when a lot of locals, a lot of villagers joined us as we are joining them in protest and resistance against blocking again this crossroad. And you could see the bulldozer picking up these large concrete blocks to put it, and we put our bodies in front of it, and we are yelling. And also, I don't know if it could have been easily seen, but the army there uses shock grenades, and we're always calling for a non-violent violent action. And the difference, I think, between the violent stance of the army and the non-violent way of our resistance is the difference is quite noticed, I think.
هون أساف عم بشرح وعم بحكي عن الواقع اللي عمليا حدثت إنه لما كنا قاعدين تحت الشجرة أجا خين أخذ الحاجز كاستعارة بفتح الطريق. فهو حكى هاي القصة إنه كيف صار وشو صار، إنه إحنا حطينا جسمنا قدام الهاد، كلاتنا كنا هناك. because we were there, so I won't translate it all. Because everyone saw it.
I hope maybe there is Arab people watching and they cannot understand it. Maybe very in one sense.
Yes, sure. No, I'll say for my colleagues, it's just that we were there, so I feel it's something that نحن كنا قاعدين بالمنطقة اللي نحن بنلتقي فيها، اللي هي تحت شجرة زيتون بمنطقة شوفة، وكنا مجتمعين. وخين كان جدا هيك كنا كثير فرحانين لأنه الحاجز هذا كان مفتوح صار له كثير فترة، اللي بيمنع القرية من إنها تروح على المدينة. فخين أخذ استعارة وحكى إنه عملياً شوفوا ما أحلى فتح الطريق، وهي إحنا نجحنا بعد سنين طويلة من إنه إحنا نفتح هاي الطريق اللي بتمنع أهل القرية إنه يروحوا للنص الثاني من القرية وللمدينة كمان، إن كان لمستشفى إن كان لأي شيء مهم جداً. وإحنا نحكي إجات جرافة كبيرة اللي انتوا عمليا بتشوفوها بالفيديو. الجرافة الكبيرة اجت لحتى تسكر الطريق، ونحن كثير مهم نقول انه احنا كنا هناك بالصدفة، احنا ما كناش مجهزين حالنا انه احنا نكون، فكنا هناك في الصدفة واستعملنا جسدنا لحتى احنا نمنع الجرافات من انها هي تحمل البلوكات الكبيرة، الحجار الكبيرة، الصخور الكبيرة تحملها وتزيحها. فاستعملنا جسمنا لحتى نمنع هذا الشيء من انه يصير. والفيديو ممكن كمان تدخل على الموقع عنا وتشوفوه كلها طويل.
Just a few weeks ago.
صح، هذا كان عمليا قبل كم أسبوع من اليوم، يعني هذا إشي اللي إسا صار وجديد يعني لأنه كل الوقت في عنا هيك أشياء.
The aim was to screen our recent activity here.
Yes.
In
In the Netherlands, yeah.
الهدف you want to say it in English again or they heard it?
I think they heard it, yeah.
الهدف إنه عمليا إنه إحنا نيجي على هولندا هون على على روتردام على المسرح على فورمات لحتى إحنا نحكي عن الأشياء الصعوبات تبعتنا اليوم والفعل السياسي اللي عم نكون فيه اليوم.
I have a question for Rima,
Yeah.
especially for you, coming from Andreas. How has your own involvement with Combatants for Peace changed your views and your life?
Changed my
Views
Yeah.
and your life.
واو. السؤال هو كيف اشتراكك بمقاتلين لأجل السلام غير رؤيتك للحياة. I believe that I lived in Israel. I live in Israel, not lived. Maybe I will live soon, but I live in Israel and what's his family name? It's not written. Okay. No, it's just a joke to run away from the answer. But I live in Israel, and in Israel I didn't have a connection with the Jewish people. I'm Palestinian, I'm Arab, I'm Muslim, and I didn't have connection with Jewish people. And it was one of the important things that after I came to the first meeting with Combatants for Peace, it was the relation and to use Hebrew, not to buy a train ticket or bus ticket or to buy something from the grocery in the university. It was to talk because I want to talk and I want to say and express my feelings in Hebrew. So it's the first time that I used Hebrew for something not academic and not for basic needs in my university time. So it was this is the most important thing that I got from Combatants for Peace. سوري أنا قلت إنه عمليا إحدى الأمور اللي تغيرت بحياتي بعد إن أنا جيت على المقاتلين لأجل السلام إنه أنا كنت عايشة فترة جدا يعني أنا عايشة عمليا بإسرائيل في المتكلمين اللغة العبرية وأنا ولا مرة استعملت اللغة العبرية غير بالجامعة وغير إذا أنا بدي أشتري إشي اللي هو من يعني إن كان بالدكان بدي أشتري شيء ولا الباص ولا القطار يعني أمور حياتية ضروريات الحياة. فبمقاتلين لأجل السلام أنا كمان مثلكم عمليا التقيت أول مرة يهود اللي هن ساكنين معي بإسرائيل اللي حكينا مع بعض عبراني مش لأنه إحنا بدنا نستغل واحد الثاني أو بدي إشي اللي هو ضروري إلا على إشي اللي هو مشاعر وحياة. And it's important for me now that I translated to Arabic. I realized that when I say a Jewish people, we use the word Jew. We're not afraid to use. It's not anti-Semitic in living in Israel because everyone says I'm a Jew, I'm Muslim, I'm Arab, I'm Christian. So using the word Jew, it's not.
Excuse me, I didn't get your last sentence because I was asking water because the lamps are burning.
Yes. No, it's just to because the different in cultures. In Israel, Palestine, we use the word Jew. And Jewish people and Palestinian people and Muslim and Christian and Druze and Armenians. So we have a lot of, we say Jewish people and it's not something, maybe for foreigners and European people, they will say, she's anti-Semi using the word Jewish, but it's just to...
I see we have big concurrence tonight because Abu Mazen is speaking in the United Nations, but some people say we prefer to watch you because I believe in grassroots solutions more than solutions dictated from above.
أبو مازن عم بيعطي إسا عمليا خطاب بالأمم المتحدة، وفي شخص اللي بعت لنا هون عم بحكي لنا أنا بفضل أسمعكم أنتم من إنه أسمع أبو مازن بالأمم المتحدة، لأنه أنا بفضل إنه أسمع الجذور تبعت بناء السلام من ما إنه أسمع. What was the last phrase?
I believe in grassroots solutions more than solutions dictated from above.
إنه أنا بآمن بصنع السلام من الجذور، ومش بصنع السلام وإقراره من الأعلى.
A question for Noor. Noor, how can we help in Europe? What do you think we should do here in Europe? Because it seems like we are a passive bystander looking at a conflict, and as an individual, sometimes I wonder, what I did, of course, is inviting you guys to the Netherlands. I hope that's a small contribution. But in general, people in Europe, Noor, what do you think they should do?
أنا هنا عمليا أنا من أوروبا، وأنا عزمتكم إنه أنتوا تيجوا لهون اليوم، لأنه عن جد مهم لإلي إنه أنتوا تكونوا متواجدين. ولكن سؤالي لإلك نور هو شو نحن ممكن نقدم كجالية أوروبية وكشعب أوروبي، شو ممكن نقدم لإلكم وللقضية الفلسطينية الإسرائيلية؟
Good questions. At first, I don't tell I share this people about Abu Mazen, the president of Palestine, but I think the United Nations, we can't do anything to push Israel to accept the peace, because all the decision of the United Nations to support Israel, the veto of America will be ready for everything. And we need, really, we need the European people to support Palestine. The important thing to push Israel to accept the solution, the boycott. It's very important, the European people, yes, to boycott Israel, because it's very effective tools in non-violence method. It's very important. Israel, it don't care about anything. It give the back for all the world, and it will be the hero of the world. You need something to force Israel to put Israel under the pressure to accept the peace, to accept the solution about two states. The boycott is the best tool, because they have a lot of experiences about the boycott. Mahatma Gandhi.
Your translation?
And
you will remember all this.
We don't need a translation. I think the Palestinian people will
ترجم
know
حالك.
that. يعني أنا بحكي إنه أفضل وسيلة للمقاطعة. يعني أنا مش بأيد اللي حكى إنه أبو مازن مش لازم يحكي في الأمم المتحدة، بس الأمم المتحدة دائما هي منحازة لإسرائيل وقراراتها في صالح إسرائيل، والفيتو الأمريكي جاهز. فالمقاطعة هي أفضل وسيلة لإجبار إسرائيل على قبول حل الدولتين وعلى الذهاب نحو السلام. وإنه هناك في كثير من التجارب صارت، مثل تجربة المهاتما غاندي ومارتن لوثر كينج وجنوب أفريقيا في المقاطعة، وكانت ذات تأثير فعال في هذا الموضوع.
I respect Noor. Of course, Noor knows that I respect him and how much I respect him, but it's important for me to clarify that what he just said was an opinion, his personal opinion. Of course, he's not the only one to hold this opinion, but it's not the formal take of CFP on this issue in general.
أنا عم بقول هون إنه عملياً هاي رأيك الشخصي نور، ومش الرأي اللي متفق عليه، ومش الرأي المتفق عليه من المنظمة. Do you have another question, Luke?
No, look. I want to continue. Don't ask any questions, new questions, because it's very important questions. It's chance for me here in Euro. I am in Euro, not in the other countries. It's chance to speak now in the internet, maybe hundreds, thousands people. So us, it's very important to join a lot of people in to boycott Israel.
No,
Because it's the Euro people, it's very important. I am here in Euro. I am in democracy
Europe.
countries, not under the pressure. No, Asaf.
but I need to translate.
Rima, wait. What you translate, Rima?
If Rima will translate,
For whom to translate? For whom?
For the Palestinians.
The Palestinians,
نور.
we understand. I translate before
No
that.
one.
for
محمد
him.
فاهم ايش عم بقول نور؟ بده ترجمة معناها محمد.
Asaf.
تفضل ترجم له.
Don't tell me this is not incompetent for peace and like that. We need some people to be a lot of encouraging competent for peace to take this decision. I know. In Israel, look, all the people is same. The leftist is like the right is like the left. No difference between the people in Israel, I think.
Noor, you see what you did now?
No. What?
The Israelis, they went on one side and because they
The
need
Israeli-
translations.
Okay.
The Palestinians, your nation,
the
they need
Israeli
a
don't want to
translation.
hear the.
Noor, please.
Between people who try to change and people who do harm. The boycott does not discriminate.
No. Asaf. I am live under the occupation. Not you live under the occupation. Asaf, I am live under the occupation. Not you. You don't mean what mean the occupation. We don't know. We don't know what mean the occupation, Asaf.
so Ibrahim will say what is
I am not stop. The boycott is chance for me here.
People.
If you want
Asaf,
to leave, Asaf. This is your
Asaf.
opinion. It's not a problem for
Asaf.
me.
say that this is not it's totally democracy and it's okay, but no, this is not what we agreed upon. We can, if Abdel Hakim and Muhammad can refer to that, because it's legitimate what you're saying, but what is not legitimate is that it's not the line that we agree upon, and I just want Abdel Hakim and Muhammad and Ibrahim to refer to that.
هنا
I want you to stop. Hey, stop. And this was the second scene of Combatants for Peace. Thank you guys.
وهذا كان عمليا المشهد الثاني من مسرحيتنا مقاتلين لأجل السلام.
No, keep it. You like that one? Okay, you have your preference microphone. What we saw, Gen, Invisible Theater.
Should I speak with microphone or no?
I prefer, yeah.
Okay. It's not, of course, not the orthodox or the traditional theater of the invisible theater, but it is invisible in the way that it preserves or activates the principles of invisible theater, because this is a real. Invisible theater is theater. That's what Augusto Boal said, and.
After this, it's hard to talk. But Asaf, you want to say it? هنا لوك سأل خين شو انتوا عملتوا، فهو بده يشرح له عن مقاتلين لأجل السلام، يشرح عن المسرح الخفي ويشرح شو هو. وأساف قال له بالعبراني انه مهم جدا انك انت توضح انه هذا الشيء ما صارش، يعني هذا كان مسرح يحكيها.
And I began to say that invisible theater is theater and it is reality. So this scene that was, it is a written scene. This is a theater play. We have acts. The play starts when the Dutch joker asks Noor, what do we want from the Dutch people? And then Noor answers something, and then the play begins, and Asaf is his opponent, and we have roles who support Asaf, who support Noor, who try to activate the Dutch joker, and so on. This is written. This is a scenario for invisible theater, but what is important for us to say that this is a real debate within the movement. This is a real debate within the group. Not necessarily that Noor and Asaf are representing their own stands in this debate, but this is a debate in the movement, and we think that this should be addressed to the SPECT actors in the Netherlands or wherever you're watching us now, that you'll take responsibility on this dilemma which you've witnessed here with us, and that you will decide for yourself, as we do in Theater of the Oppressed.
Thank you. They performed it yesterday evening. They performed it in the University of Applied Science in Rotterdam, and there were 100 students watching this scene, and suddenly this brave girl stands up and she shouts, "I can't hear you if you talk all together." And she really took a stand and tried to end the conflict, and I think that is exactly what you're trying to achieve with this play, isn't it? She stepped in and took action, yeah.
هون بس هو عم بقول عن اللي صارت امبارح، انه احنا هاي المسرحية عرضناها، المسرح الخفي هذا المقطع عرضناه وعملناه قدام 100 طالب، وطلعت هاي البنت الشجاعة وحكت خلص، وهذا عمليا اللي احنا بدنا اياه انه يكون من الجمهور.
This is a question for one of you. It's not specified. How do CFP actors, actresses imagine peace in Israel, Palestine? Could you describe how that would look like? What is your ideal image, to talk in a Boalian language?
هون في الشخص اللي عم بيسأل السؤال، انتو كممثلين وكممثلات من مقاتلين لأجل السلام بمسرح المضطهدين، شو الصورة اللي انتو بتتخيلوها للسلام في أراضينا، في سلام في فلسطين وفي إسرائيل؟
عبد الحكيم محمد.
إذا حد حابب يجاوب.
What is your dream? What is your ideal? How does peace look like?
صح.
Okay.
هنا زي ما قلت لكم عمليا بالعربي، انه تعالوا نعملها صورة، يعني صورة جماعية مجسدة. بنفع إذا شو بدكم تجاوبوا بدكم نعمل صورة، بنعمل صورة.
By making an image.
نعمل صورة.
Could you all make here the image of how peace looks like in Israel, Palestine?
No, the
Gen says it's easy, okay.
The dream.
Yeah, the ideal image. How does peace look like? Just let's do some
إنه
image
نعمل
theater.
صورة تبعت نور.
Okay.
نعمل صورة زي ما عمليا التمرين، إنه واحد عنده صورة براسه يستخدم الأشخاص الآخرين ويعمل الصورة للسلام بين إسرائيل وفلسطين.
change somebody so we can step out and you can continue building?
تقدر انت تكمل يعني حدا اللي
For
you want
example, you replace Liat
بدل ليات وليات
and
هي
Liat
بتكمل.
steps out and look at it Liat and just change it if you like to adjust it just a little bit or not, or if you agree you
ليات عمليا رح تطلع الصورة وإذا عندها إشي صغير بدها حابة تغيره فهي بتغيره.
Could you change somebody, Rina? Yeah, Rina, step by. Perfect. Wow. Thank you guys for that. Thank you. Thank you. Just take a seat. Can theater convince young people in Israel to become active against the occupation? That's the next question. Can theater convince young people in Israel to become active against the occupation? Has theater that in itself?
هل المسرح بيشجع الشباب يعني الجيل الجديد الشبيبة في إسرائيل على إن هم يناضلوا ضد الاحتلال؟
The question whether anyone, be it young people or older, finds him or herself eventually taking part in resisting wrongdoing, taking part in trying to change reality, to bring justice. This question is very, very complex. Eventually, a lot of people do find themselves. And I believe if someone finds himself taking part in activism, it's due to a long process that he or she undergone. And I believe that if along the way anyone takes part in our activities, theater activity for that matter, it remains with him in a way that all the other ways of being exposed are not affecting him. You can watch television, you can read, you can talk about it over dinner, you can even take a tour to Palestine. Sounds like something pastoral or touristic, a tour to Palestine, but I mean to see what's going on. But all this doesn't stick with you eventually. This sticks with you. This image eventually that we've just done, it sticks with you. The transparent theater we just seen, I'm sure that would stick with a lot of people. Youngsters in particular, if you're asking about young people, well, we have problem reaching very young people. I'm talking about kids in school. It's a problem. The schools don't cooperate with us knocking on their door. They don't open for natural reasons. But a lot of soldiers that did find their way to some of our activities or heard about us. They come and join very quietly and very doubtfully. And these are the most important people we address to, I think. They're young, in the early 20s, and a lot of them do join us.
We need to.
I'm sorry, yeah, translate first. Sorry.
Yeah. مش it was long but I will try to remember everything. إن هو هون عم بيقول عمليا إنه إحنا بالمدارس عند الشباب، يعني المدارس بإسرائيل ما بترحب فينا لحتى نحن ندخل ونحكي مع الطلاب المدارس اللي موجودين هناك. فحاليا هاي مش أجندتنا، يعني حتى لو إنه نحن حاولنا نطرق الأبواب هني ما بيعطونا، ولكن نحن أغلب عملنا هو مع الواعيين البالغين بالعمر، والأغلب هو عمليا الأشخاص اللي أو ما راحت على الجيش أو أشخاص اللي هي موجودة بالجيش وإحنا بنتوجه إلى لحتى تترك دائرة العنف اللي هي موجودة فيها. ولكن أنا بأكد لكم إنه أي شخص هو بيجي اليوم وبيجرب الأداة المسرحية وبيجرب المسرح معنا، هو شخص اللي بضل هذا الشيء معاه لكل حياته، بضل متذكرنا، ومش إنه يروح لمظاهرة مرة واحدة ويروح. إلا المسرح كثير مرات عم بيخلي أثر بقلوب الناس وبعقول الناس للتغيير المستقبلي.
Yeah, but just to add something on it, there is so much power in the media from their friends, and I'm talking still about those young kids. The media, people say to them, there is no problem, it's a lie, it doesn't exist. How can, because this is influencing a whole new generation of young people. How can we break that cycle? I think it must take our attention. Or
هون عمليا السؤال اليوم وسائل الإعلام والصحافة والتلفزة كلياتها عمليا هي عم بتقرر إيش تمرق للجيل الجديد لأولادنا، وكيف إحنا بدنا نحارب هذا الشيء. يعني كثير مرات عم حتى بيحكوا لأولادنا هذا الشيء مش صح، هاي كذبة، وهذا الشيء مش عم بيصير. الإعلام بخلينا نصدق شو هو بده نصدق. فكيف رأيكم إحنا ممكن نحارب هاي الظاهرة؟ To whom is this question?
I think Liat wanted to have the microphone.
First of all, this is the challenge. It's hard to answer the question, which is one of our biggest challenges. All I can say is what I see that can be the influence of theater, and especially theater of the oppressed, on this process to help to change the mind and to get out of the violence circle. I think that from my personal experience and also from what I experience in working with youth with this method, I think that the theater brings a few things that we could see today, especially when you do it together with two groups. One is the possibility to create a dialogue and to see and to understand what it is the other side in a different kind of way, to understand what they have been through, to understand what is really their image maybe of peace, and to understand what is their image of occupation, and to understand a lot of things that you can't understand just from words, and especially words that you translate after that. And then start to do a dialogue with that, like we did in this image. Okay, so Muhammad did his first image, and then one of us came out and did a small change, and then another one came out and did a small change, and finally we found this common ground that we couldn't say in words before. Another thing that is really, really important that comes a lot from the forum theater is the option to ask and to confront our questions and to do a rehearsal for the reality. Because if a lot of us had the question if to refuse, I can say in the Israeli side, how to refuse, if to refuse, what am I doing in a block. We could do a rehearsal for that. We can come and try it on the theater. And then what I felt it a lot of time in my life since I started doing theater of the oppressed, it's really easier. Finally, you find the words to say when you need to say them. I don't know exactly if this is how to reach all of this, how to reach it to all of the youth in Israel, but I think that from the people that have saw, that have listened, that came to our activities, that are doing this kind of things, you can see a change.
هي عم بتقول له هون احنا عمليا في لنا عمل جدا كبير عن طريق المسرح، وانا جدا مهم عندي انه انا اضيف هاي النقاط اللي هي بتعزز العمل عن طريق المسرح. وفيها طبعا نقاط عدة، ولكن انا ما رح اعددها كلياتها. بدي احكي الاهم عندي لأجل تغيير ولأجل تغيير الرؤية والفكر عند خصوصا عند الشباب، لأنه أنا بشتغل مع شباب في إسرائيل، بشتغل مع شباب اللي هم بعمر ما قبل التجنيد للجيش. فأنا مهم عندي أحكي إنه مسرح المضطهدين كثير بشجع الديالوج، بشجع الحوار الثنائي اللي هو بيقدم الرؤية والفهم جهة واحدة للجهة الثانية، وبخلي كل جهة تشرح إيش مر عليها وإيش كان معها. تمريك الصورة الحقيقية اللي ما ممكن نفهمها من الكلمات، وخصوصا كلمات اللي بيتم ترجمتها وبيتم يعني تمريرها من الفم إلى فم آخر إلى أذن، فبتخربها. ومثل ما عملنا هون بالتمرين هذا اللي إسا كان إنه إحنا ضلينا نغير بالصورة اللي موجودة تبعتنا لحتى ما لقينا الأرض المشتركة اللي بدنا نعملها من دون حتى كلام، بس بالجسم. وممكن نكمل شغل فيها ونطوره. الشغلة الثانية هي إنه في عنا الإمكانية عن طريق المسرح والسؤال والمواجهة، بمعنى إنه نحن عم نتمرن على تغيير الواقع. فإذا نحن عنا اليوم مظاهرة، إحنا ممكن نيجي ونعمل نجربها على المسرح لحتى إحنا نقدر نجهز نفسنا لتغيير الواقع بالحقيقة. فهو مثل ترجمة، يعني ما قبل الترجمة لأرض الواقع. العمل أنا لقيته إنه هو كثير بيساعدني وبيسهل علي الأمر لما أنا بكون بالعمل على الأرض الواقع، بيسهل علي بعد ما أنا تمرنت على الأمور بالمسرح. وهون عيم بتقوله أنا بعرفش كيف أوصل لكل الشباب بإسرائيل، بس أنا بأكد لك إنه الأشخاص اللي اشتركوا وشافوا وسمعوا عنا رح يضل هذا الشيء يهدهد عندن بمخيلتن، ورح يتذكرونا باليوم المهم.
My last question. It comes from Erela. It's not mine, but Erela is asking, who has children? Who of you have children?
هنا إريلا عم تسأل مين عنده أولاد.
And her question is to those who have children. How do you tell them about the other? How do you try to stop them from internalizing the images they get from their society?
سؤالها هي للأشخاص اللي عندنا أولاد، كيف أنت بتشرح صورة الآخر لأولادك، وكيف what was the second one?
How do you stop them from internalizing the images they get from their own society?
وكيف أنت بتساعدهن إنه هن ما يرسخوش الصور اللي المجتمع بكله كيف هو لازم يطلع على الآخر.
أول شيء يعني أنا من وقت انضمامي للمؤسسة وبلشت أخذ دورات المسرح، فبلشت أطبقها عندي في البيت مع أولادي.
The first day I participated in the workshop of our group, I took the exercises and I made it at home with my kids.
ودائما يعني من هذاك اليوم حتى ما قبل ما أجي على هولندا وأنا بحكي معهم بالأساليب هذه، أساليب اللا عنف والأساليب الحديثة للمقاومة.
And since that day until today, these years taught me how to use non-violence techniques to talk with my kids and to help them to realize the reality that we live in these non-violence educational techniques.
شكرا.
Thank you.
أنا طبعا عندي أطفال صغار ما بيوعوا هذا الشيء. بنفس الوقت أنا عندي خوف على مستقبلهم لأنهم هم بعاد عني في داخل إسرائيل وأنا في الضفة فلسطين، فخايف إنهم من بعدي أنا يكون عندهم أسلوب ثاني في الحياة.
I have my kids, they're really, really young. But if I look at the future, I'm really afraid that, as Muhammad told us before, his kids and wife, they live in Israel and not in Palestine. And because they live over there and I live in Palestine, I'm afraid because I'm not in the process of educating them and being a father every day, because of the apartheid wall, I cannot expect what will be in the future, so I have this fear.
يعني أنا بشوفهم بالشهر مرة واحدة ويعني أنا ممنوع أروح عندهم، هم بيجوا عندي بالشهر مرة واحدة.
I'm not allowed to go to see them, but they're allowed to come to see me once a month, and this is the only time I could see them.
بتمنى إنهم يتعلموا على العنف أو يكونوا عنيفين، أو بحب إنهم يكونوا بحبوا السلام والأمان.
So how they will grow up, it's a wish, and I wish that they will be really educated and with no violence in their future.
أعتقد إنه أنا يعني عشت طفولة صعبة، فمش متمنيها إنها لأطفالي تكون.
I lived a really hard childhood in Palestine, and I hope my kids they won't have it in Israel.
شكرا.
Thank you.
For me, I am working in non-violence not when I am joined Combatant for Peace. Before that, maybe 3 years or 4 years. And my duty to teach my children about non-violence and how we can accept the others. I give him the way, I give him everything, and he can choose where he want to go. But for me, the important thing, I want to teach him how we can end the occupation by non-violence and to convince him how is the non-violence, it will be effect more than the other tools. My big daughter, she's total with me, exactly, because she's when he 14 years joined my organization, Middle East Non-Violence and Democracy, and she's very active with the non-violence group in Tulkarm. And she's until now with me working, she's excellent. But the other sons, I teach him and give him books to read, to do about non-violence, about everything for non-violence, and I tell him the best tools to end the occupation, to use the non-violence, and I give him my experiences, what happened with me, and how I look for the future, and why I transfer myself from violence to non-violence. And I hope all my son with me in same idea. I hope that. But the future, we don't know what we will find in the future. But hope that. أنا حكيت إنه أنا يعني بشتغل في العنف قبل المقاتلون بحوالي 4-5 سنوات، وواجبي إني أعلم أبنائي على اللي أنا بشتغل فيه وأقنعهم في موضوع العنف وتقبل الآخر، لأن هذا إحنا بنشتغل عليه في المؤسسة بشكل عام داخل المجتمع الفلسطيني، التقبل والعنف. عند البنت الكبيرة هي بالكامل بالمطلق بتحمل هذا الفكر، لأنها هي من 14 سنة موجودة عندنا في المؤسسة، وهي فعالة جدا من الشباب النشطين والفعالين في داخل المؤسسة. بقية أولادي أنا بعلمهم، بعطيهم كتب بقرأوها، وكمان هسه بعيدها في الإنجليزي هذا، إنه في عندي بعض الكتب الإسلامية اللي بتحكي عن التسامح والحب والأمور هذه. بعطيهم يقرأوها، ودائما بحكي معهم على أساس إنه شو اللي صار معي أنا وكيف تحولت وليش تحولت وقديش مدى فئت النضال اللاعنفي لمجتمعنا الفلسطيني في إنهاء الاحتلال. بس أنا ما بقدر أفرض عليهم في النهاية شو يختاروا، الخيار بكون في ايديهم، انا بنطيهم الطريق وهو بيختار حياته، ما بقدر احمل له عصا يعني. وبتمنى اولادي انهم يكونوا على طريقي، يعني يمشوا في دربي. I forgot something to tell, it's very important. I have 5 books about the non-violence in the Islamic. It's very important for me to my sons we start to read these books because yeah, it's very important.
Yeah. First of all, I thank Erela for the question because I think it's a good question for to sum up because that it deals with the future. Just to tell our viewers that we are living here in Rotterdam in a boat together. It's not a metaphor. Israelis and Palestinians in a boat in Rotterdam living together, and I share the same cabin in the boat with Noor, and I woke up this morning with the laughter of Adam, his youngest boy, who was 2.5 years old. And this is how I opened, and I love this boy. He's very funny. So, and he was shouting at Noor, and Noor was shouting at him and on the phone, and this is how I woke up. So the issue of children is still alive in me. But I wanted to say that first of all, I'm not teaching my children. I'm trying not to teach, not to dictate, and not to be didactic. I'm trying to show them. So a few weeks ago, we went to Noor's house, Noor and Amal's house, and to celebrate the Ramadan with them. And on the way, we see the checkpoint. We saw 2 arrested the Palestinians, and my daughter asked me, what is this? I mean, what is the line for Arabs and the open lane for the open lane? And I said, this is a lane for Jews, and this is the line is for Arabs. So I'm trying not to be didactic, but she said, how come there is a lane for Arabs and a lane for Jews? And I'm happy that she's coming with me to Tulkarm. And I said, we're not allowed to go to Tulkarm. This is against the law. We are violating the law by going to area which as Israeli Jews we are not allowed to go. So I'm trying to let them see, to let them experience, and through that that they will be free from the images that I grew up on, and they will choose their own way, not to enter this violent circle, and not to do unfortunately the mistakes that I've done.
خان بقول انه عمليا انا هو حكى القصه انه هو صحي الصبح على صوت ادم، وهو ادم يصيح عليك وانت تصيح عليه، وقد هو بحب ابنك، لانه هي علاقات اللي هي مش مفهومه ضمنا انه عمليا مجموعه اسرائيليين وفلسطينيين في روتردام اللي عم بيناموا مع بعض بقارب بالماء. هذا مش شيء اللي هو موجود او مفهوم ضمنا، هذا شيء اللي هو جدا مهم انه احنا نحكي. الشغله الثانيه هو بالنسبه لاولاده وبنته تمر، هو بخدها وبفرجيها، هو بدوش يكون ديكتاتور عليها او مبرمج او ممنهج لإلها، الا هو بده ياخدها ويفرجيها، لانه هيك انا بجبرهاش وهيك هي بتكون مقتنعه. لانه مهم عندي انه انا ما بنتي ما تكبرش على الصور اللي انا كبرت عليها كطفل او كشاب اسرائيلي. انا بدي اياها تشوف الصور وهي تقرر وتفهم لحالها وين الصور الصحيحه. قبل كم اسبوع احنا رحنا نحتفل عند دار نور وامل برمضان، واخذت انا بنتي وابني، واحنا رايحين عمليا هي سالتني عن التشيك بوينت، عن الحاجز، وسالتني عن الناس، شافت انه في اعتقلوا فلسطينيين على الحاجز. فهاي هي عمليا الصور اللي بنتي وابني اللي بعده عمليا مش فاهم، هاي الصور اللي هن رح ياخدوها. وكان عندي مهم كثير انه احكي لبنتي انه انت بتعرف انه احنا موجودين بمناطق اللي هي ممنوعه على الاسرائيليين اليهود. فانا مهم عندي كمان انه احكي لها انه انا عمليا مش كل شيء الدولة عم تقول لي إياه هو مسموح، هو ممنوع. هو عن جد ممنوع، لأنه في هون استراتيجية للإخافة. فمن خلال الرؤية والتجربة هيك هن رح يكونوا أحرار، وهيك هن بتأمل إنه ما يعملوش الغلطة اللي أنا عملتها بكوني شاب صغير بالعمر اللي ما شافش إيش هن شافوا إسا.
أنا بالنسبة لي بديش يعني ألقي خطاب في نقطتين مهمات يعني، بس بدي أقولهن.
Only it won't be a long speech, Luke, but it will be only two main and important things.
أول نقطة أنا بتفق فيها مع الجميع، اللي هو أنه أنا أولادي ما يتعلموش العنف، أهم شغلة، وما يضطهدوش حدا.
The first thing which is universal and we heard it here as well, that my kids will grow up in non-violence environment with no violence education and they won't hurt anyone.
والنقطة الثانية والأهم أنهم يفهموا الأمور على حقيقتها حتى لو كانت صعبة ومرة.
And the second thing that they, as a father, I must explain to them the reality with all the bad and good sides.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart to spend this week together with our team at FORMAAT. I think we are having a wonderful time.
أنا بدي أشكركم من أعماق قلبي على إنه أنتم موجودين هنا اليوم بمسرحنا فورمات.
Thank you for being so open in this panel conversation, for sharing with us your knowledge on how to fight violence with theater.
شكرا إنه أنتم كنتوا مستعدين إنه أنتم تشاركونا التجارب الخاصة فيكم، وإنه أنتم تكونوا يعني زي مفتوحين للتجربة الجديدة معنا.
I want to thank Hannah and Mara for doing the chat box, and Ruben and Alessia for the camera work.
بدي أشكر الصبايا والشاب على التقنيات.
And all those people on the internet who asked questions and stayed with us for 2 hours.
والأشخاص اللي على الإنترنت اللي ضلوا معنا لساعتين.
And for those who want to see the performance live, you can see them Saturday on inside Pleintheater here in Rotterdam in the evening. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us, and salam for everybody.
One thing, because I don't have voice.
Yeah, I just want to, before we finish, to thank you, Luc, and to thank the wonderful team of FORMAAT. I think we are dealing with struggles, and what you offer to us is alliance. And all the people who are watching us, we consider you as our allies as well. But to invite us and to give us this opportunity to spread the rumor through the internet, something that we are not able to do ourselves, this is what means to be an ally for us. And we appreciate that very much. And simply, you are not a bystander anymore. I mean all the people in FORMAAT, you are allies to our partnership and journey, and we are very thankful for that.
Thank you. Good evening. We're gonna close the internet in a few seconds, but maybe you will see some images of people walking around still, so you can still watch. And I hope you will be on our third webcast, and probably that will be in February. And who our next guest is, I'm not gonna tell it yet. Ciao.